recording. All right, so my name is Gabriel Delgado Soto. Welcome to my channel. It's a pleasure to have you. Woke up in the middle of the night because I had a toothache. Gotta get rid of this tooth. Hurts a lot. Don't mind it so much during the day, but when I'm trying to go to sleep, it can be a pain. Time to time I'll wake up. It happens. I uploaded 2 other videos on YouTube. Those are my test videos. See how this whole thing works out. They uploaded pretty fast, so I'm pretty happy with that. Not gonna lie. I tend to be a pacer, so I'll be doing a little bit of walking while I do my videos. I'll do my best thinking when I'm walking anyway. That's a good thing. So, who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? Well, you already know my name, Gabriel Delgado Soto. And what I'm doing here is, I guess I'm trying to teach meditation, dreaming, and a few other things. And we can discuss that later. And for the most part, the purpose of that is that you will improve upon your life in the many ways possible to improve upon your life. Because, let's face it, a lot of people out there in the world right now confused, muddled, flailing about. And it's understandable given our current position in history. Big history guy. So looking at history, causes and effects, how things develop, how things progress. It kind of makes sense that we are where we are right now in life. For most people, which is, it's not exactly sunshines and rainbows. Childhood can be one of the most roughest stages that we go through, followed by, teenage years, then adulthood. And it's funny, it kind of ends up going that way, but that is the way it is for now. In time, a couple hundred years from now, maybe we'll have healed through most of the generational traumas that still persist in the system. But for now, we gotta, deal with the cards we were dealt. Because it's pretty much all we can do. So, a little bit about myself. Dropped out of high school pretty early. Didn't feel like I needed it. Headed over to the library. Yeah, study. Learned a lot of things. Pretty cool things. Pretty funny things. Pretty romantic things. I learned a lot of things in that library. It was awesome. I remember I used to, every time I'd come up to the library, there's a downtown library up where I live. And it's a humongous library. It's got these inscriptions on the walls. These inscriptions are like, good words of advice given by, old people who may or may not be alive at this point. Some are obviously dead a long time ago. Some, you can't really tell. But, it's good advice. So, every time before I entered the building, I'd walk around it, and I'd inscribe their words right into my heart. Every time. Like a little ritual of mine. So, that would constitute most of my teachings, as in, that's my lineage. It's a library. I don't have a teacher. I'm not a part of any line or whatever you want to call it. With the Buddhists, this master taught this master taught this master. Yeah, that didn't happen. I taught myself, autodidact. So, let's see. Around the age of 15, I picked up a book by Carlos Castaneda. And back then I was really into genetics and biology. Specifically human anatomy and physiology. And I was reading this book, and a lot of what his book had to say matched a lot of what I was studying in genetics and human anatomy and physiology. As well as a lot of history and philosophy too. But really, what really shone a light on was, who we are. And I was thinking to myself, oh shit, Man just wrote a book. It's kind of like a kid's book on my subject, you know, because it's got a lot of symbolism. It's got a lot of metaphors. It's got a lot of poetry. A lot of damn good advice for people in life. I thought to myself, okay, I know most of the stuff he's talking about. There are a few things in his book where I had to fill in the gaps. And I realized, oh, okay, so to fill in the gaps, I'm going to have to take certain steps. One of them being learning how to dream. I had to test it, see if he was correct about what he wrote. Okay. Second thing I had to do was meditate. I had to test it. I had to see if he was correct about what he wrote. And the third thing we can get on to later. But, you know, everything he wrote about pretty much worked out as expected. Man was on point, not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. You ever do pick up one of Carlos Castaneda's books? I want you to read it in a manner where you know that all the metaphors are just metaphors. That in the end, the only thing he's talking about is real life. And that some parts which are fantastical need to be translated into everyday life. You know? And that can be difficult for some people, depending on how far along the path you are. It might actually be easy to translate it. You know, you might just pick up the book the first time around and be like, dude, I know what you're talking about. When that happens, that's great. Know this. If you haven't meditated or dreamed before, those are the gaps. Test those gaps. Those gaps are pretty cool, if you're so inclined. If not, don't worry about it. What you do understand, without having to test the gaps, you know, the meditation, dreaming, all that. Dude, that's solid. You don't need to meditate or dream or anything like that in life to actually get somewhere. I myself was able to reach what they call no mind or kensho, you know, without having to meditate or dream or anything like that. I did it through self-inquiry. And self-inquiry is just looking at the causes effects of your life and then trying to match those causes effects in real life. That's what dreaming is. Heard an old man say once, you know, where things come from and where things go to is the same place. And for the most part, it is. You know, where things come from and where things go to, in experience, are the same place. In reality, where things come from and where things go to have a slightly bigger landscape than just the self. But technically, it's just dealing with the self because, you know, you're walking around the room, you're bopping around in daily life. Technically, it's like you're surrounded by this bubble. So you only get the information of what you see. So everything you see in life, you know, that's the only information you're getting. Everything you're hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling. You know, obviously these all involve senses, sensory organs. That's the only way you can gain any information for your brain to then create this panoramic movie of what's going on in life with you as an actor in it. So, you know, you walk around, you're in your little bubble, you know, because you can only see so far. You can only hear so far. You can only feel so far. You can only taste and smell so far, you know. And as long as you know all the senses are working properly and there aren't any other debilitating issues occurring, you know, you've got your bubble, you know. These are your 5 senses. And you can use those 5 senses both to learn about yourself and to learn about the world, you know. And that's a beautiful thing. It really is. So I started, you know, testing stuff. And I think at this point I should probably cut. Almost at a 10-minute mark. I don't like to take up too much of people's times. Let's see. I know. I'll leave you with a little bit more on self-inquiry. So, just because you know what, it's a third video technically, first video I'm making, but self-inquiry. You don't need to meditate. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to, go to sleep and dream. You don't need to do a damn thing. All you're gonna do is you're gonna walk around in life, right? And in your head, many things will be occurring based off these five senses. All these things that are occurring based off these five senses, you can study that. You can study your reactions to your interactions with people. You can study your mental landscape when you're going about doing things. Let's say all of a sudden you stub your toe. Study that. You have a good meal. Study that. You had a great conversation. Study the reactions of that. The interaction itself. Study that. And if you take every moment in life as an opportunity to learn, it doesn't actually take that very long to get here. To that point where you're just, oh, I'm here. This is me. This is the world. This is how I should go about trying to navigate it. But you've got to be paying attention pretty much 24/7. I heard an old man say, most people get used most hours of the day, and a person of Zen uses 24-hour day. Now, that is true. The person of Zen does use 24-hour day, but it isn't just the person of Zen who uses 24 hours a day. Technically, I don't have a lineage. I do find the Buddhists to be pretty cool, though. They learned a lot. They've been experimenting in life. They weren't as restricted as other religions. So they were given much more leeway in how they could go about both interpreting and expressing what they're learning, which is kind of nice. Don't get it twisted. I'm not a Buddhist, because a Buddhist is just another symbol, like Christianity, atheism, humanity, death, life. These are all just symbols, words that we create to describe something that is beyond belief, which is reality. Our reality as we live it is just as it is. Then we add words to attempt to describe it. And with time, we tend to believe the words are actually more important than the reality, which is a little weird that people do that, but that happens, Like, let's see. For me, a long time ago, Puerto Rico used to mean the island I came from, inhabited by Puerto Ricans. But with time, Puerto Rico stopped being the island I came from, inhabited by Puerto Ricans. And Puerto Rico became America. And then over time, as I studied history, Puerto Rico became the world and all of its inhabitants. So this idea that home is limited by geographical barriers, or that home is limited by, I want to say racial, but scientifically speaking, there's no such thing as race. So I want to say ethnic barriers, because that's cultural. That this idea of home can be limited by such concepts. That changes over time, depending on how it is that you go about learning, how it is that you go about doing, And that's going to be, one of my biggest contentions. I love the Buddhists, but it's going to be one of my biggest contentions with the Buddhists. It appears that they halfway understood the Buddha, but were never able to drop one symbol, Buddha. And if they can't drop that symbol, they can't ever really get to know themselves, because there will always be something else that they're trying to achieve. And I hope that doesn't happen to you. Right? That's why I don't have a school. There's no school here. There's no lineage. Whatever you're learning from me, that's for you. You don't go saying, oh, I learned this from him and him. You know? I mean, yeah, maybe, I was parroting words. Pop, 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 parrot. I'm just pop, 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 pop. Parroting. But you can't pick up on those words unless you're ready to pick up on them, unless your life has already molded you to pick up on them. And in reality, those words were yours already before I even uttered them from my lips. They were swimming in this river, and, they're there, but you barely notice it's there. So now I start talking, and I highlight that it's there. Yeah. Well, you'll be the one doing the plugging out. That's my experience of it. I'm the one who plucks from my own river once something shines a light on that thing. That's self-inquiry. Let's say I'm talking to a girl, and in my mind, I judge her. I know for a fact, that judgment came from somewhere in my past. Something happened that then caused something to appear. And for a moment there, it looked like I was judging a person, but really, I was reflecting this thing. Whether the judgment is true or not is irrelevant to the task of self-inquiry. It's how did it percolate to the surface? How did it arrive as a thought? And at first, when looking at these thoughts, once it's solid, it's a thought. That's the end product. But before that happens, there's the percolation, and that percolation is very subtle. Now, at first, you're not going to have a taste for it. You're not going to have a knack for it. And you're going to have a hard time noticing the subtle things that occur before the thought forms. And the only thing that's going to be real is the thought that formed. And that's when they say, well, this person is still kind of on the surface level. Because they're kind of just coagulated into that final product. And all they notice is the final product. They don't notice what's happening before that. That's known as a self, the final product. That's what creates the picture of self, self-identification. Kensho, or no mind, is simply the ability to give distance to thoughts when they're coagulated, and then observe from that distance. Eventually, that kensho, that ability to observe from a distance, allows you to begin doing what I do naturally, which is from the Sankara's point of view, which is to look at the finer details of how that came to be. Now it's like you can shine a light on it and see just a little bit more than just what's on the surface. Over time, you can get even deeper and deeper and deeper. But yeah, at first you're just shining a light inside. And there are many ways to go about learning how to shine a light inside. You can do dreaming, some people do psychedelics. We'll talk about the psychedelics way later, because in my opinion, that's a catalyst. Its only express purpose is actually as a cap to your practice. So let's say you're a meditator, let's say you're a dreamer, you're a self-inquirer, or you're doing yoga, whatever. Once you reach that point where you reach, you could say true mastery. At that point, you're going to need a life-changing event to give you a different point of view in life. And obviously, you don't want to have to beckon a life-changing event. You don't want to be running into the ghetto trying to get shot, or running into the middle of the highway trying to get hit by a car. That's not how you go about getting a life-changing, not traumatic, but a life-changing event. It's not how you go about it. How you go about doing that is you use the psychedelics. So it's best you don't use psychedelics until the very end, because it's one of the things about the mind. It builds up a tolerance. It builds up a resistance. you know? So you don't want to ruin the miracle of the psychedelic by using it at the wrong time. Instead, wait for the right time, when a life-changing event will truly have a profound effect on you. Then you get to take your psychedelic in a controlled setting that is safe, that is warm, that is welcoming, that is non-judgmental, you know, and then you have that life-changing experience for the first time. You know, that's the best way. You can do it on the first one, that first trip, that first experience. You can flip it just like that. That's the best one. You got to do that shit 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times. I don't know, man. You're going about it wrong, in my opinion. Maybe you're spending too much time with the drugs. Maybe you should get back to sitting, or maybe dreaming, or dig a little deeper in here, because it's taking too long for you. And that could leave some lasting harm. So, aim for the first time around. Alright? And with that, I think I should probably wrap it up. There's like about 20-something minutes. But again, welcome to my channel. I hope I can be of help to others who are also on the path. If you're not on the path, I hope you find me funny, interesting. I hope I awaken a curiosity in you to understand what it is that I'm speaking about. There is a path. It is an awesome path. It is not sunshines and rainbows. It is an awesome path because it does a few important things. It lets you get to know who you are. It lets you get to know who others are. And it vastly, vastly improves these interactions so that we can get the most out of life, out of love, out of passion. You know? You want to learn to draw, you want to learn to sing from the heart. Well, maybe you want to get to know yourself first. And then through this self-express. I hope life finds you well. Yeah, have a good night. Peace.